How's it going, guys? And welcome back to another Q&A. Today we're joined with Mod Matt K,
Hi.
Mod Ghost,
Hello,
Mod Ash,
Hello.
and myself, Mod Archie. Today we have some really interesting questions regarding regarding the Abyssal Sire, as well as sailing. Our sailing expert, Mod John C, is not with us right now, but he did answer these questions previously, so we have him. All right, first question. A. Lamau asks, can you add an option to Piro to tell us what imps are currently in the area?
Ooh. Like around you, perhaps?
I was thinking the entire area, because just around you sounds a bit, maybe, OP?
Well, yeah, but yes, we could make it list what imps are currently wandering around the maze.
Yeah.
Does it make it easier?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't tell you where they are, but I think it would give you something to go looking for. Like if you knew there was a really good impling somewhere at the other end of the maze, it would give you an incentive to go looking for it.
I think if you logged into a world and you hopped to a world and you were looking for a specific impling that just happened to be cleaned, you know, instead of searching around the entire world looking for one, maybe if you could be informed that there isn't one there at the moment, you could just get on and hop to the next world. It'd be nice.
What do we call it? Paro anyway.
That's the other name for whatever it's actually called, but I can't pronounce it. So.
Okay.
Mod Hero made up most of the words in that project, although I happen to know that Fairy Erica was named after his daughter.
There we go.
See
He's
what the
not
chat
around
thinks of
anymore.
this one once they finish up with their Lamaux.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on adding an option to Piro to tell you what imps are currently in that area? Yeah, just kind of gauge the chat's reaction with that. We're not going to bother strawpulling or anything.
Okay.
Piro.
Yeah.
Is a Piro a word for a clown?
Puro.
Wrong one. Okay.
I was thinking of peri.
Well, it's like
Sauce.
pure, only not pure.
They're
Seeing a lot of
more
no's.
interested in
Who's
yes,
got a big
no-ish,
nose?
maybe.
All right. Next
It's pretty
question then.
split, doesn't it, really, what they're saying?
Kind of mostly knows, I
I'd be
think.
interested to know actually how many people actually have played it at all
Yeah.
from the chat.
Yeah.
I just don't see it's helpful because I don't see the point in people going into a world running around aimlessly when there's absolutely nothing there and wasting their time. Then
Yeah.
we'll just have some information to help me utilise what time they actually use the game effectively. It's not making it easier, I don't think. It's just stopping wasting people's time.
I would tend to agree, but the chat thinks otherwise.
Yeah.
Regardless, we'll hang on to the idea. Toilet asks, when the ghost phase comes out for Cerberus, I find it difficult telling the difference between the green and blue ones since the dots are so small. Can something be done about this to differentiate the ghost? Jeez.
I believe
There's a
you
job
were
in.
working on that.
Yeah, Alfred's actually given one of them a bow weapon, another one a sword weapon, another one a staff possibly, just to make them all look like they've a respective style.
Sounds good.
On screen, so yeah, it'd be a bit easier for people to
We had a
notice.
few issues with colourblind people
Yeah.
not being able to see it, didn't we? So made sense to do it that way.
Okay. That solves that. Hotchelly asks, can we have the ability to decant Slayer rings with the NPC at the Great Exchange?
Did we not do that? We could do that.
I don't think you can with Slayer rings.
Okay, we can do that.
Makes sense. This is my job asks, will we get a concrete guaranteed release date for the Abyssal Sire? Do you have a date in mind?
We do have a date in mind. It's going to be September, hopefully, maybe October, depending on how it goes. But we're not going to give you a confirmed date because we ain't got one. And we'll get it as soon as we can get it to you.
Okay.
What does that?
For
I didn't know
updates.
that. It's less stressful for me now.
For updates on how soon you can expect it, you can follow. Probably Mod Ghost is the best person to follow for that.
At the moment, I'm still mapping down the environment. We're limited on certain things, so there's going to be 4 rooms. I just found out we don't have the ability to mirror what we copy and paste. So if I copy and paste the rooms, I have to essentially build parts,
Right.
customised, and I'm limited on things like that. So yeah, it's a bit restrictive. But I don't want to be showing any screenshots at the moment, just because it'll look very sort of half-baked. I want it to have like a bit of a punch each time a screenshot comes out and really sort of pick up some momentum instead of being drip fed, which doesn't really seem to do the job. There's other things going on with the game at the moment which are interesting that people can keep up to date with. Ash normally keeps people up to date on your Twitter, don't you?
For the most part.
Yes.
Hopefully
Hero
it's not
stuff and
occasionally.
things like that.
I think he tweets a few times a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once or twice.
Like if a player sends me a really, really amusing suggestion.
That's actually fine with me though, because I think if we can keep as much of this a secret until the actual release date.
There is some really fun stuff
Yeah.
in this, and I think it's going to have players will appreciate it once they actually get it, as opposed to just showing them it straight away. It just kind of spoils
Absolutely.
it.
Also, with artwork, showing it half complete really does spoil something. Whereas
Absolutely.
with content stuff, when I take a picture, you can't really tell what the code's doing or not doing at the time anyway.
All right. Next question. Wycan asks, can the 90 combat requirement for Corp be finally removed? It was added in the beginning to combat ragging. It's no longer an issue.
I'd be happy to remove it, but I think we should put that one to a poll.
Yeah.
Can't see a reason.
Since, of course, it wasn't going to be there, what we could do with the question is poll whether it should be there, and if it doesn't get the support, then we revert to the standard state of it not being there.
It reminds me of one of those peer-friendly questions that just draws a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying no. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you put the word pure into it, it's,
Yeah. Well, it's the only people that are going to be below 90 combat that can consider killing Corp.
When did we ever get a lot of support to reduce or remove the requirements on something?
I think we haven't tried it.
Oh, we've polled a few things, like
Right.
Trouble Brewing back in the day. We often take off the cooking requirements
That's
and
right.
the quest
we did,
requirement.
didn't we? And give it a teleport as well.
We did that bit at least.
Yeah.
A lot of spam about Deadman mode. I don't think we have any updates at the moment we can share.
Nothing more really. I suppose we can talk about Deadman mode. First time you'll probably see it will probably be at Runefest for those who are there. They'll get to have a go at it, and hopefully there'll be some streaming of it from there as well. Get some feedback on that. See what goes from there.
For what it's worth, we know that there's been people trying to pretending they've got a Deadman beta and inviting people to come and log into it with their username and password. And unsurprisingly, those aren't real, and people get hijacked from it. So don't go to those.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, I mean, Deadman mode is looking October still. Just take it from there and see what happens. But yeah, Deadman mode is coming. It's been worked on.
Hype. I can
Ian is
sense the
doing stuff.
enthusiasm.
Yeah, I think currently he's working on the map, the ability to have high-res maps so that we can map down the right areas properly.
Yes.
It's currently what the task is that he's working on. So that's the current thing that's going on, but it is all going to get there, and it's all going to be exciting. I can't wait till Ringfest. I'll tell you what, talking about exciting stuff. Okay, got serious now. We've had the art team working on Deadman himself, and that looks really quite amazing. And you'll be able to see him at Ringfest as well. The actual image of what he looks like, and got some cool stuff.
Yeah,
You
kind
guys
of like
haven't seen it yet, have you?
I haven't seen it yet.
What
no.
the artist looks like.
No, what the man himself looks like.
Oh, the dead man.
The dead man.
the one that you
man.
showed me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's looking. Got some cool stuff
Quite
happening.
epic.
So yeah,
Did you
looks
decide
good.
a name for him yet?
I haven't. No, I want to
Just the
name him
dead
something
man.
particularly
Just name him like
non-threatening.
Fred.
Yeah,
Fred the Dead Man.
Fred the Dead Man or Cyril. Something particularly non-threatening to call him, just to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be quite cool. The advertising for it's looking good.
All right.
There we are. Moving on.
Onwards with the questions. Moving on. The Furious asks, can corrupt dragon weaponry be added to the BH store and pulled for free-to-play?
We didn't get a lot of support when we talked about the old PvP armours. We didn't talk so much about the corrupt ones, it was more Vestas and Statius that we were on about at the time. I can't pronounce that. I suppose we could always do that, to give free-to-play something new to play with.
Quite a few free-to-play concerns lately. I think PKing is probably the strong point there, and corrupt dragon weaponry fits that. Whether it has as much positive feedback to pass a poll is
Last
the
time we
question.
did it crashed and burned, didn't it, when we started talking about it beforehand? Don't know if we polled it per se, but
I think we took it off because it was so badly received.
we could do, and this is sort of a bit odd, but it is another option, is we could do it so it's only available in free-to-play. So it doesn't impact pay-to-play PKing.
His idea was coming through was it coming from the Bounty Hunter store, obviously in members. So,
Could be a free-to-play bounty hunter
yeah.
with only that in free-to-play. Well, I'm sure there's several issues that might raise, but just another way of looking at it.
Can we see a straw poll for this one, please?
Yeah, sure. We're going to ask you guys if you would like to see corrupt dragon weaponry available for free-to-play.
Is that only for free-to-play?
Yep.
Yeah. But just another way around of doing it, because I know people don't like to have, especially the members PKing interrupted by new stuff.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that. Then equally, they don't want the free-to-play PKing being interrupted by new stuff.
And there's also something a bit odd about having a free-to-play item that the paying members, are not allowed to
Yeah,
have
exactly.
or use.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is just another way of looking at it, really.
I can imagine for certain builds it still would be usable for members, for certain peers. But yeah, we'll see how they think. Get that
Indeed.
straw poll in the chat momentarily. Next question then. Will the Blessed Ceremony Sword be buffed to rival that of the Abyssal Bludgeon? So, with the Abyssal Bludgeon, it's kind of moving the Blessed Ceremony Sword out of the way and stepping in to take its place as the best weapon there.
Probably ought to do something at some point. I don't think we're going to actually buff it for release, I guess. Unless we polled it first, it would have to be polled. But
Is the Sarah Sword only crush? Because the bludgeon's
No.
only a crush weapon, isn't it? So there is.
It also has a slash, I believe.
Yeah, sure. So there is that difference to start off with. I'm not too sure. Probably run it past John. That's a good question for him.
Yeah. That is a good point that the bludgeon can only train strength. We'll get into that in a minute. Whereas the Blessed Sarah Sword can obviously train all three.
Sure.
Also, the Blessed Sarah Sword degrades over time, which is really where the negative side comes in from it. So maybe not buffing it, but maybe lessening how much it degrades.
The bludgeon, almost like the Aura weapons, requires a certain resource to actually use it as well. So there is that sort of limitation to it, and you do have to keep gathering that resource from the area where the sires are.
That kind of evens things out then.
Yeah.
All right. So we have the
That's
results for that
interesting.
straw poll, asking if you'd like to see corrupt dragon weaponry in free-to-play, passing by about 63%.
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I said the last time we spoke about it was, what, 12 months plus ago?
Well, we were talking also about the other PK, the other PvP armour at the time, and focusing more on that than on the corrupt dragon. So it could be that the corrupt dragon wouldn't be so badly received.
We're probably now free-to-play, but we were last talking about it, weren't we?
I think it'd be an interesting one to pull.
Yeah.
It would also be interesting to raise the question of what other, whether teleblock should be brought to free-to-play.
Yes, that's a quick question, isn't it?
We polled it, it didn't pass, but could be it's been a few months now, people might feel differently.
Indeed, indeed.
Someone just said in chat more Aura scales. It's not more Aura scales. It's going to be a different type of resource.
Yeah, that would be weird if it Zora scales.
Yeah, I wouldn't get that.
Yes.
Someone just said, how do I ask a question for this? Just PM me, tweet me, or post on the Reddit thread, or post on the forum threads, either Wednesday through Thursday throughout the week. There you go. All right. Player asks, can you increase the ignore list size? I imagine he's also going to want the friend list size increased as well, but...
Well, the thing about the ignore list is that once you put somebody on it, you're not really going to give it much thought about whether you ever want to take them off again. So you can end up increasing ad infinitum if you just keep seeing, oh, this guy shut up, this guy shut up, this guy shut up, especially if you found some spammers around.
Yeah.
Better option might be takes people off your ignore list after X amount of time.
I was going to say there's...
You could look at where they've logged in after a certain period and automatically remove them.
There's a suggestion right now on Reddit to have a mute until I log out option. If that would be more of a possibility, not
I think it's
sure.
something RS3 experimented with a while back, having a temporary ignore list thing where people you reported were ignored for a period of time.
Yeah.
Or if somebody came off your ignore list when they've been permanently banned.
I think it might be worthwhile having another look at the way we normally manage spamming, because this is what it boils down to, isn't it? The way we normally manage spamming is through a whole load of heuristics we look at, and if certain accounts meet these certain criteria, they then get muted while they're in game, and then nobody sees what they say. Probably need to have a look at that again, see who is bypassing it and how they're doing it, and updating those again. I think it's probably the next step to do. Last time we've done it, we've dropped spam reports by 60-70%. So.
Yeah.
But as they will change their methods, which will bypass our systems, then we've got to update it again. So I think that'll be the next step to do it. So we need to look at the data of
You've done it.
of what they're doing now, and then we can use that data to update our special thing, which will mute them. All because of the data.
All because of the data.
Yeah, data's good. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I mute you?
Checkmate, inquiring about the Abyssal Bludgeon again, asks, will it come with a prayer boost or anything like that to make it stand out amongst the other weapons? So as you just said, it's only going to have one single attack style. That already makes it stand out. Anything else?
I've not heard of anything else.
You know, if we were going to do a prayer boost, we could maybe do it instead on the Blessed Saren sword, since that's the thing people were asking us to buff.
I think
and
that-
it's slightly more prayerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say it's more prayerful. Yeah.
Prayerful?
Well,
Is that a word?
prayer related. Well,
Yeah.
prayerful is a word, but it's not necessarily the right word for this context.
Now we're discussing which word's the correct one to use. Yeah, it just seems more appropriate with the law
does,
connected to
yeah.
that weapon. Then this comes from hell, and it's also good for prayer.
Well, the Abyss does drain your prayer when you go in, so
Yeah.
that's about as far from being prayerful as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or pious, or prayericious.
Are you making up words now?
Pious.
I made up one of them.
As for will it have any special abilities, the special attack is an interesting one. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it deals more damage depending on how low your prayer gets. So if you use the special attack of the Abyssal Bludgeon whilst at 0 prayer, or 1, you're going to deal the most amount of damage potentially, versus if you use the special attack at full prayer points, which is quite interesting for risky PvP fights, especially smite fights, because you might go for a low
yeah,
prayer
of course,
special
yeah.
attack, but then get smited and lose it in the process. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody PKs with it like that.
Should be interesting, yeah.
Yeah. I think as far as... Sorry, go ahead.
I can't wait to hand it over to the testers, really,
Yeah.
and to see what they make of all of this, because it's interesting.
Yeah, quite amazing.
I think as far as making it stick out compared to the other weapons, it's already going to do that graphically. And then with a special attack like this is unlike anything we've ever tried. So I think it does just that.
Cool.
Fism asks, can we see a pest control pet possibly implement a system similar to that of Barbarian Assault, where players can spend points to gamble for the chance of a pet?
Ooh.
You could have a selection of them, couldn't you?
There's a bunch of really cool
Yeah.
monsters in there. I
Have
could
one
see
of
being
those
cool pets.
blockers coming out. That'd be quite cool. I'd quite like that.
I like the blockers.
You think people want to play more
It's a
pest control?
quite popular, more popular than the other mini games, I should
Yeah.
say.
I think
I
so.
like
I
pest
was thinking
control.
the spinners would be appropriate there, but
If you can get a whole portal trundling around after you, that would be fun.
Yeah.
you just take the
Animate
void
that.
knight.
Have the legs.
I know we shouldn't really encourage Fashionscape because players don't like it, but it would be cool if you had your void armor on and could sort of wander around with those pets. I think would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Well, I think it'd be fitting. I think it'd be fitting.
Yeah.
You do as well, don't you? Thank you.
Yeah. Chat's agreeing. Seeing a lot of support there for a portal pet, but realistically, spinners, yes, thank you.
The big
Good idea.
bouncy ball ones, I forget what they're called. Splatters?
Oh, yeah. They'd be pretty good too, actually.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
They could do one of everything.
I like the idea.
6 or 7 ones in there, isn't there?
Yeah, we'll have to come back to that one for sure.
Could be different colours too, I
Yeah.
think.
All right. Catchy asks, can sailing come with a Sharknado boss?
No. Absolutely awful idea.
It's a great idea.
Why did you even ask the question? That's atrocious.
I'd vote yes.
Mod Ronan
Terrible.
queuing in, he would vote yes, as would I. That's 2-1.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm the boss, I'll decide.
So far, it's
Stupid
passing.
idea.
The thing about a boss is you have to be able to defeat it. I can't quite imagine how you'd fight a Sharknado. I mean, you might have really good barbarian fishing skills or
Right.
something, be able to stick your fist into the Sharknado and get a shark on.
If you believe the films, what you need is a chainsaw, and as it flies towards you, you can cut it in half.
Yeah.
What you
I was
need,
forced to watch the films by my children. They're absolutely terrible.
I think you need to throw lots of heavy rubble into the tornado and hoist them with their own petard.
Ah.
It'll kill them, won't it? Yeah, just knock them all out.
Ooh, that's actually, wow. All right. Too clever for me. Next question. Follow up with that. Will sailing have natural disasters such as tsunamis or dangerous whirlpools?
Sorry, I was laughing at the chat. What?
Will sailing, or the ocean rather that you're sailing in, have natural disasters such as tsunamis and dangerous whirlpools?
I think it's got to have something like whirlpools, and it's certainly that damages ships that you've got to repair it or something. Makes sense to do that.
I saw something that looked like a whirlpool on John's screen earlier today, although exactly what it was going to be, I do not know.
Yeah, that makes sense to do that. I mean, it's got to really, isn't it? There's lots of dangers out at sea.
I'm thinking, sorry, just real quick. This is not going to be nice for the chat. Pokemon, okay, whirlpools that until you get a certain move, you can climb over them. You can't climb over them. Whatever, you know what I'm saying.
I've never played Pokemon ever.
All right, so imagine these whirlpools that block off certain areas of content that you can't access until you have a certain sailing level, which you would have the skill to then sail through that whirlpool
that's
and
so
access that content that's higher level.
You could just do that with currents though, because a maelstrom would be like something that's very dramatic, and that'd be a cool thing to have. Just having it blocking something isn't very exciting, but if you had stronger currents stopping you from getting somewhere, so you need a larger ship, bigger sails, better rudder, better captain, things like that.
Could you animate that? Larger or stronger currents?
You could just create, we could even create new textures because it's water actually, and then we can have animated textures, can't we?
Yes, that's how the waterfall works.
Yeah, so that's fine. I believe we could even reuse those waterfall textures if we're thin on time even.
Well, that's what the model I mine uses too.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, I actually like the waterfall. I checked that out up close in game, just by teleporting my character over the top of it and inspecting it with the camera, so I like some of the effects.
A long time ago, some newspaper was doing an interview with a RuneScape player about the success of RuneScape that was kind of taking off in like 2004. And the player said that what they liked to do was go and sit by the waterfall because it was so beautiful. And the journalist went and asked them, have you ever seen a real waterfall in real life? The kid had to say no, but they like this one.
Yeah.
I like the idea of thinking that it's not just going to be only flat waters and that's it as far as water goes. So I think having things like waterfalls or whirlpools or stronger currents or anything like that would be nice to see with sailing.
Waves, big waves.
If you find a waterfall out at sea, I would like to see that.
I think we can arrange this.
Yes, it can
This
be
makes
that.
sense. It's RuneScape. Okay. Next question. Hash asks, so you guys fixed the Wilderness Zombie Mage clue scroll X logging issue, but didn't fix the elite clue scrolls that summon monsters.
I think it's partly because the Zami one was next to a really popular Runite rock,
Yep.
so we prioritised that one. But the way I wrote it can be applied to more NPCs quite easily, so very happy to go back and add more.
Okay. Easy enough. Starbucks asks, what are your thoughts on opening up a Menaphos / as potentially Big Desert update? Now, he's asking a quest and more scaling locations with this. It sounds like a massive update.
It does sound rather large, doesn't it? I mean, we've got to do something with Menaphos at some point, haven't we, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Sounds
makes
good to me.
sense too.
And if we write a quest, it's going to be a big project anyway.
I think there's a lot of people that tend to like Egyptian things, isn't there, amongst our community? Like that style of artwork and that culture. So
You give him a walk like an Egyptian walk at him.
I
That would be
wonder
cool.
if that quest we were talking about doing, this is all going to be very cryptic for you, so I'm sorry, but that quest we were thinking about doing could also impact on Menaphos as well, and we could use that to two birds with one stone, maybe.
That secret big quest.
That secret big quest.
That
As
we
long as
can't
we
talk
can-
about because it's
Yeah, we're not
secret.
going to talk about it yet.
As long as we've got a coherent way of linking that storyline with that storyline.
Yeah, I might have to have a chat with
Yes.
Mod Osborne and see if we can see what links there are there, I think. Yeah.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Secrets.
All right.
Good to have them occasionally, isn't it?
Chef's assistant, part 2 confirmed.
Cook's
Um,
assistant, please. Also, we did part 2 for Recipe
It's been a
Disaster.
while.
Cook's assistant part 3 is due.
No, sheep shearer part 2. That's what you want to do.
It doesn't sound quite as epic, but all right.
Sheep herder part 2. That'll make everybody.
That's Morning's End part 1.
Yeah.
But Sheep Shearer part 2, you like a Return of the Wool or something.
Yes. Well, everybody knows a story about Chris the sheep, don't they?
Sorry?
I'll tell you a story about Chris the sheep. It's a real
Oh.
story about Chris the sheep, who was escaped from a farm a couple of years ago in Australia and got so big that it was just covered in wool and it looked like a big ball of wool. I showed you it earlier. It's called Chris, and they caught it and sheared it, and it had the largest fleece that's ever been sheared. It was like 40 kilograms worth of wool came off it.
Who names these animals after like people names? Why wouldn't you call it like Fluffy or something?
Because they call it Chris, they obviously had some reason to.
Maybe it's a Father Ted reference.
don't look at me.
Back to the RuneScape questions.
Yeah, sorry.
Phil asks, can we see a buff to the Obsidian staff? Currently it's two-handed and requires 60 attack, making it useless in comparison to others, like the ancient staff. It's a valid complaint.
It's a pretty rare drop. I mean,
Yeah.
not rare, but it's a lot less common than most things.
Maybe we could give it a use in that other update we were talking about next year.
Oh, that other secret really
Yeah,
cool
other secret
update.
update.
Oh yeah.
You guys have to watch Runefest, by the way. You know, while we're on, you've got to come and watch. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it?
Hee
If it had a use in that.
I think we could probably find a use with that. Probably.
It's very informative watching this live stream, isn't it?
I'm sorry.
All right. Final asks, any news on super combat potion equivalents to mage and range? I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? Said it was a good idea. We'd like to expand on it, but we're not like head over heels for the idea.
I don't know what to say, really. I mean, it's always been sort of there or thereabouts, that idea of what to do with them, isn't it?
Range we didn't mind. Magic has a weird problem that buffing your magic level isn't as useful as you'd expect it to be.
Yeah, magic pots don't really do much.
You should
Perhaps
have-
extended range potions instead.
Extended as it lasts longer.
Yeah, as in the
Good
they
luck
don't-
implementing that one, mate.
I'm trying.
Yeah, okay.
All right. I guess that's where that lies.
We could. I mean, just because a magic one wouldn't be very useful doesn't stop us doing it. Just they won't thank us very much.
Yeah, I suppose what they're asking for is they want to have the same effect on magic and range as what you get with the combat potion.
And not have to carry a defense potion necessarily.
I think they kind of just want overloads, but they don't want to say it.
Well,
Yeah.
if they want overloads, they can keep wanting.
Yes, indeed.
Ooh,
Yeah, I
you
don't
hear
think that
first
would-
from Mod Ash.
I don't think
All
they'll
right.
pass the poll anytime soon.
Could you give them a hat where they stick the flasks on the side and 2 straws
Yes.
that go into their mouth, so they don't have to keep clicking on it?
We think alike. We have some really good ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Phony asks, can we get the Cerberus drop rates, please? Mod John C tuning in saying soon. There you go.
Man, a few words.
Yeah.
Just one, actually. Let's see. Pale Man asks, I recall seeing a teaser with some sort of I'd never know how to say this word. Aliasing?
Anti-aliasing.
All right. I had it. Is this something we can see sometime soon?
It's something Ian's done quite a lot of work towards, actually, but he put it aside to focus on an update for scaling all the interfaces to make the menus and the text bigger for everybody, which would be really quite useful if you want to, say, a 4K monitor and you've got RuneScape filling your whole screen now, but all the text is yay big. So he's prioritising that update. I think it's coming on quite nicely, and he's having to do it in his spare time due to his work on Deadman mode. But when he's got that sorted, maybe he can return to anti-aliasing, because that was looking quite promising when he put it out
Yeah.
on stream.
Yeah.
Of course, when he previews screenshots and stuff, you have to remember that any picture that comes out tends to have been compressed by something like Twitter's image compression algorithm. So what you see looks a lot smoother than it ever would. On the other hand, yeah, if it would look better if he can get it done. He says it won't hit the frame rate too badly either, with luck.
That's good.
Be nice to see. All right. iDerive here asks, currently in the wilderness and PvP, it's possible to drop items in combat, no matter the value of the item. Says this often leads to a player dropping his AGS if he's smited, for example, and his friends then coming and picking up, or he can then bank and run back and pick it up. That's kind of annoying. I can definitely relate to that.
Yes.
Is there anything we can do there? He's suggesting only being able to drop items under, say, 30k or so.
It's difficult. I mean, what we could do is we could make them appear on the floor straight away as soon as you drop them, which is one way around it.
We had
We've
that
pitched
at one
before.
point.
In fact, we did it to other RuneScapes Wilderness in
Yeah.
2011. Now the drawback is that it becomes a lot easier for people who see their friends being bound or frozen or whatever to go and drop a whole load of supplies under them and let them pick them
Yeah.
up and restock immediately. Mind you, people do that already to a certain extent, because if somebody's frozen for a very long time, it becomes worth it. I've never been such a big fan of the item being dropped and being impossible to drop, because sometimes you really do want to be able to just empty an inventory slot, pick up something you've PK'd, and then pick up the thing you started with again. Preventing that is going to be quite frustrating. Now, we could try and play with the delay before the thing becomes visible, so that somebody isn't going to be coming back from out the wilderness to reclaim it.
Okay.
Give them 10 seconds or something.
I don't think...
Another option is to have a spell that people can cast which makes them keep equipped an item. So if they're using a specific item, you cast a spell and they can't de-equip that item, something like sticky hands or something. They can't physically let go of something.
That'd be fun if you can get that cast on you, then go fight the Chaos Elemental.
Yeah, I was just thinking,
What
it's kind of the
if-
opposite of that.
Thinking slightly further outside the box than I normally go, if you drop an item in the wilderness during combat, it becomes visible immediately to the person you are fighting, but not to you. I mean,
That's
the person who's got,
interesting, yeah.
or not just necessarily your foe, but the person who's done most damage against you and would get your loot if you died at that moment.
That's an interesting idea.
Maybe a bit
Didn't know
too
that's
far
possible.
outside the box.
I don't know how it would work.
This is really why the chat can come in really handy, actually. We'll see what they think of that. Nose?
They say
really?
tormented demons.
Yes, and other words which don't sort of affect anything. I mean, I suppose it boils down to, do those people who want to keep their items want to keep them more than those who want to get the items?
If I knew I was going to die and lose my AGS, I'd rather drop it and make sure nobody got it versus the guy that killed me.
Yeah, kind
Or
of
that
inviting
guy.
griefing.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
You are that guy, yeah.
Or I'm calling all my friends to be like, I dropped it next to the tree right here, go get it. And that's just kind of cheap, but I don't think there's much we can do to get around that.
Well, either we stop people dropping them, or we make them available to the person who was going to kill you anyway, or we make them available to all kinds of people. If anyone's got a better one, they're welcome to write in.
Calling me a noob. Get out of here. Header asks, why is the Abyssal Bludgeon so fast? It's supposed to be a heavy two-handed weapon.
The Abyssal Bludgeon is supposed to operate as fast as an Abyssal Whip.
Yep.
That operates for every 3 server cycles. So the reason why it's so fast is the Abyssal Whip's actually a spine of a demon, so it's essentially a piece of biomatter that you've pulled off a demon, right? So what I've decided to do with the Abyssal Bludgeon is actually make it so it's several of these components combined together from the demon, but it's actually got a living mind of its own, so it can actually operate itself. You're the person that holds onto it, you're like the master of the weapon.
Yeah.
But the weapon itself is alive and conscious, so it moves. It's not actually like it's you that's having to like maneuver this big lump. It actually maneuvers itself towards your opponent.
So you're kind of directing it while it does the work.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's a really cool idea.
There you go, answers that one.
I'm impressed. Okay. Aragorn says, can you guys update it so that the combat level is not required for certain Slayer tasks before the Abyssal Sire? Mahjong C answer this one. Do you want to take it or?
No, I just know that he was working on it.
Yep. He said the assignment rework should be done for next week. So yes. There you go.
I believe he was going to post details on the forums of what the state is with the assignment list requirements at the moment and what he's thinking of changing.
Yeah, I saw a post go up earlier on Reddit, so I guess it has been done.
Awesome. Next question. OnScme asks, will the Old School client get to see any features such as hourly XP trackers and accessible high scores?
Client itself, probably not anytime soon. Game, again, we could do, amongst other things. If we wanted to do that, I know you were looking at doing some stuff with the original XP drops, weren't you? You did a few bits with that. It'd be nice to take that further.
I can't off the top of my head remember what you're describing there.
I'm sure it was.
I know we said at the time we're not going to hold back XP drops while we build in a whole load of tracking to remember how much XP you had an hour ago and calculate rates, given that players can quite happily track that kind of thing on a piece of paper. But if that's what they'd rather we spent dev time on, then we can go there. However, since that is something that a player can track themselves at the moment, hourly XP rates, we are more likely to prioritise things to the game that the player can't track for themselves, such as, well, I'd like to move to a loot share system.
Be good. But yeah, so it's probably, I mean, when it comes to updating the client, we don't have a client expert in the team to do it, which is the problem. I don't know, Ian could probably do it, I suppose, but...
Look, most of this stuff can be handled between a content developer and an engine developer. It's just that there's only so many things we can be doing at the same time. Declaring it to be a separate client is kind of immaterial.
Yeah, I know what I'm thinking is the actual downloadable client thing, sticking something
Yeah.
onto there, which I think is what they're asking for, which well, I believe is a different kettle of fish. We're looking at employing somebody to do that if we needed it, but I don't think that's sort of one thing we want to do, we spoke about it in the past, haven't we? We want to get as much into the game as possible, so whether you're on a browser or not, you get the same benefits no matter where you're playing it from.
Especially now we have resizable mode that fills the browser screen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the reasons behind that.
That's a very good point. Keeping it as fair as possible between both the browser players and the client players.
Indeed.
Okay.
Because some people just can't download. I mean, if you're at school, for example, they won't necessarily let you download the client.
Yeah.
You've got to play within the browser. So
Not that we condone
So-
playing old school instead of being in class.
no.
Definitely not. Don't do that.
No.
Come on, what are school libraries
I've never
for?
done that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I finished school about 10 years before Old School came out, so no, it was literally 10 years before Old School came out.
Not old school, but
or in RuneScape
previous
even.
RuneScape.
But you know, some places can't download the client, so they need to work in the browser. So you know, we have to keep that as fair as possible. What are they like?
I don't know where that came from. All right, chat. Nico asks, can the fire cape animation be fixed? Currently, the lava flow is split into 3 different sections.
The lava's projected on 3 sections of the lava cape because those all move individually, I believe. They've all labelled up, so when you actually view the cape, it's got a section here, a section here, and a section here.
Yep.
What that would have to do would be to be projected on all of those at once, which we just can't do. So because you've got all of these textures that fair enough mirror at the edges, so you could tile them together and you wouldn't be able to see the seams. As soon as you move that down, the mirroring gets put off center. So then you get this asymmetry that appears across all of the joins. It's just an unfortunate fact that because we've introduced a zoom feature, you're going to be able to see various artifacts now, which you otherwise couldn't see. So if you don't like it, don't go right up close to it and scrutinise it. It wasn't made for that in the first place, you know. It would be nice to get it so we can have textures that project like that, but I'm not particularly a fan of projectors for old school, textures for old school's art style. I think it succeeds best where it just uses coloured polys. The fire cape's nice, it's unique. Because it uses a texture, a lot of people like it, and I appreciate that, but I wouldn't want to go down that route in future with the graphics.
I'd certainly want to be careful before changing the appearance of the fire cape.
Indeed,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of, if not the most, in my opinion, like the biggest nostalgic item in the game.
Sure.
One of them, for sure. I believe RS3, or RuneScape, did change theirs to remove these seams, but they requested an engine change for it.
Mm.
Do you know what it did?
Not a clue. It just removed the seams. I don't know how they did it.
I think it's probably most likely they just allowed them to project the texture over multiple sections of a model
That
as
makes
opposed to
sense.
just one section.
I think it's best to just leave it how it is.
It might make magic trees look better as well if we could, of course, because they use an animated texture as well for the kind of sparkly star things going down the sides, and the joins are really quite obvious.
Well, I noticed on the waterfall as well, as we mentioned earlier, there's some parts of the texture that actually flow back up the waterfall as well.
Yeah.
So
And then there's the that fountain of rune in the wilderness with textures going all over the shop.
absolutely.
You know the one I mean, the spurting obelisk up there.
Ah,
What shape is the obelisk, Ash?
Pointy. Obelisk
Yeah.
shaped.
Yeah.
He's not going to go there, never mind.
Sora says, seeing how overcrowded Cerberus was on its first day of release, will anything be done to help the Abyssal Sire's launch? Good question.
Sorry, I missed that question. I was thinking about obelisks.
Cerberus was heavily crowded. Wow. Cerberus was heavily crowded on its first day of release,
Sure.
right? Can we do anything to help the Abyssal Sire?
The Abyssal Sire's got 4 rooms. You have to have a Slayer assignment, so that also restricts the amount of people that will be there. There's also a vast number of worlds. I believe we've got over 70 worlds, haven't we, that people can hop to.
Bunch of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's an extra room. There's always going to be a rush on the first day, but we just can't instance it. So we can do our best, have 4 rooms, make the boss fight very challenging, so people get knocked out of it quite frequently as well. I suppose that's another thing. But yeah, there's only so much we can do without instancing.
If we instance it, and we've got, what, 25,000 people, I think, able to kill that thing simultaneously and burning through Slayer points to kill it over and over and over again, them drops is going to come into the game very fast, unless they're so stupidly rare that they may as well not be there.
That's a very good point.
Yeah,
Exactly,
actually,
yeah.
that is that's a better point.
It is. I mean, the
That's
whole
why we
game
don't
is built
instance.
about.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole game's built about using what's available in game as part of the balancing. So
That's also a good reason for having the weapon all chopped up into several different pieces. So it's, I really don't like the idea that people can just get an item that's that high level anyway and just go, oh right, got that, I'll see you later. It's nice to actually make them work for things, and it makes them feel like more of a sense of accomplishment, and there's more of a sense of prestige about the item as well.
Yeah. I don't think that'll necessarily be the case, as they're going to want, well, obviously if you're killing the boss on the first day, you might not be doing it just for the weapon, but maybe to sell it as a moneymaker and heading back as fast as you can.
Yeah.
There's also not just the bludgeon, there's the dagger, and we've said pet? Maybe?
Yeah, there is going to be a pet.
Okay, confirmed.
Now, one thing that was suggested was that since there are multiple rooms, we can have different level Slayer requirements to get into them, so that the elite few can only get one room where others can't go, and players who are low level Slayer have worse crowding problems.
Okay, cool.
That we can do, although we ought to come up with a reasonable reason why there's a Slayer requirement on these things, rather than just saying it's because we felt like it.
Yeah.
There should be a thematic reason.
Seems a little unfair, really, for someone's put the work in to fight that boss. They want as much chance as anybody else who's put that work in to fight it. That's my only concern with that.
I think if they want to try that, they could probably hop to the higher total level worlds. It's a bit of an alternative, although those are typically also just as full.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah.
It's going to be busy. I think everyone's got to accept that, and that's what happens when we have an update with a boss in it.
Well,
It gets busy.
Take the Dagonoth Kings, for example. We offered to have a second Dagonoth Kings room with another set of kings in it, and only people who'd done an elite diary or something would be able to go in the separate room, so they'd have less crowding problems than the people stuck in the main Dagonoth King room. And that failed its poll quite significantly, with most of the feedback being, we don't want their drops to become just junk.
Indeed.
So if having a second copy of the room would do it, instancing the room would do even more. So yes, we know you'd like it instant, so you can just run straight in there and burn your Slayer points and try and get the axe, or the body part, whatever it is that the Sire's got, as quickly as possible. But I just don't think that's going to work very well in the longer term. With the Kraken boss, we did eventually release an instance room for it, but we waited a jolly long time after the thing had come out.
All right. Rune Mystery asks, will sailing be friendly to level 3s? Mahjong C got back to me saying yes, it will indeed. All right. Till asks, the white fruit tree provides white fruit which restore 5 to 10% of your run energy. Can we have the ability to make pie out of this fruit, providing energy and health restoration?
White fruit pie.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Okay. Might.
There's technically a barbarian potion for that, but I don't know many people make those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really see anybody talking about white fruit in general, really. So.
Well, I think it's untradeable and it's obscure, and you've got to go up to an annoying bit of rock to get it, and it doesn't help very much.
Yeah. All right. There's another question here asking, can the ability to enchant tiaras with gems give them special abilities? So here's his first idea here. Don't know if we have to go with this one, but enchanting a tiara with emeralds provide a small increase to run energy, restoration that is. Ruby could cure plant disease, etc., and these would degrade over time, being fueled by gems, I imagine.
Seems like a nice idea, doesn't it?
Sounds good. I'm not quite sure how the ruby one would be meant to work. I mean, if you're wearing it, your crops just are less likely to get disease across the whole world or something.
I was kind of figuring if you're wearing it and you see that you have a dead crop, it could kind of bring it back to life, or a dying crop, I should say.
So free plant cure, effectively.
Yeah.
Alternatives, it might, if you're wearing it when you plant it, it might act as compost or something.
Well, there is technically space in the code for an uber compost. At the moment, we've got 2 kinds of compost, but there's room for a third.
It doesn't have to be an uber compost; it could be just existing compost. So.
No, I mean, we could do that.
Doesn't make a ton of sense to come from a tiara, though.
No, it's magical stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd want a hat that acts like compost. It's like having kind of poo on your head.
I think the idea is an interesting one, but the execution.
They just need reason. I mean, it all boils down to. I mean, the concept of tiara, gem, enchant is good. It's just what those things do. That's where the difficulty comes in.
Yes.
But the overall concept of it is a good thing to do.
And preferably not something that makes an existing feature substantially less useful.
Making gems more useful though, that's a nice
I
little
think as well
bonus.
as you've got to be careful about touching rune crafting, so if anything's going to impact that, then that will get, not anywhere near passing a vote
Yeah.
at all. So
All right. Kano says, can you pull extremely rare skilling pets? This has been brought up before many times. However, he has a few cool ideas. So he's pitching mining would come with a baby rock golem. Yeah.
yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Fishing, a big fish. Didn't really get this one. I was just picturing a fish flopping around.
Yeah.
Can't really swim
You get,
through the
maybe
ground.
A crayfish, they have legs, don't they, that walk around? No, not crayfish. What am I thinking of? Those.
Crabs.
Yeah,
Do a
you
rock
get
crab,
crabs
maybe.
with
That's
it.
better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you get
Um,
crabs.
Great
Rune
fancy what we've
crafting,
got.
the Abyssal Leech, woodcutting, baby tree spirit. He's got some interesting ideas. Mahjong C actually got back to us saying he'd love to do this. He's already created the rock golem, kingfisher, beaver, and baby chinchompa for a few examples in his test environment. So
It's the beaver for woodcutting.
I imagine so.
I think so.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense, wouldn't it? I suppose there's a different sort of people want to know the drop rates. It's be a different sort of thing, isn't it? How much XP must you get to be an odds-on chance of getting it?
Well, I know what rate he put into his test code in his test stream, but I'm not saying what it is.
Yeah.
I think it should be like way more rare than a bossing pet.
Yeah. I mean, the way sort of I look at it is, as a comparison, is quite interesting because you kill 5,000 bosses, you might get a chance of getting a pet from it. But do you make 5,000 actions of chopping a tree to get one?
No.
Or is it suddenly 10,000, 100,000? You're looking at time it takes, and what's the chance of getting one if you get to 99 in a skill? 'Cause you might get one at level 1, you might get one at level 99. But what's the chance of getting it if you get all the XP to 99?
Would it be possible to make it so if someone's of a higher level in that skill, then they've got more chance as well? Because it actually shows that they put in the groundwork in the first place, doing those activities to actually get it.
Could even be a minimum skill requirement to be eligible.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we've already got like the odd rare drop for some skills. I think fishing, you have the big shark, wood cutting, bird's nest, mining, gems. That's not nearly as rare as these should be. If you could take that and multiply that by 12 million, make them super rare, kind of working like that, I think that'd be kind of cool.
That would also limit the amount of people that have them and stop cluttering up the place with pets, but at the same time will we be implementing a toggle with that to actually turn off visibility of pets for people that don't really want Petscape?
Yeah, so it will introducing 23 pets effectively. Or is it 24?
It's a lot. It's a lot
20
of
something.
pets.
We could probably skip the combat ones since they're boss pets for that, but
Sure.
the other ones would make sense to have. I'm not quite sure what a fletching pet would look like.
Yes.
That goes for quite a few of them actually. Construction, or you can have a little house following you. Like,
You could, Baba what's her face's house from.
Baba Yaga's house.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
which is that house
That would be
on
cool.
Chicken feet. That'd be amazing.
That would be really good, yeah.
okay.
A sailing pet's going to be interesting. A small boat or something just floating
That'd be
around.
a duck or something, wouldn't it? No, I can't do a duck. That won't work.
Yeah,
badly,
pet
wouldn't
ducks.
it?
Do that.
I'd say have a seagull
Swan.
that just flies
Yeah,
around.
seagull, yeah.
An albatross.
Yeah, that's a bit, yeah,
That's it, yeah.
that's definitely a lot more
Or a
interesting.
parrot.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
shorter.
I
Could we
wonder
do
if
that?
a sailor could have an equipable albatross you wear around your neck or something.
That's big birds if you wear around your neck.
I know, but it was in that poem.
Right, okay. fair
Okay. Right. Next question. Keys says, will the Abyssal Sire's combat mechanics be kept secret until release, or will we spoil anything?
Well, I don't want to show anything about it. That sounds really bad. I don't want to. I don't want to show anything about it. But as far as combat mechanics goes, I want people to be going in blind, just because it's going to be a little bit more cerebral than I've seen other boss fights before. It's not going to be a case of just running up to it and hitting it. You're going to have to interact with the environment around it, and the Sire's also going to interact with the environment as well. So there's going to be certain things that you have to do in a certain order to actually. You look nervous, Ash. It'll be fine.
I'm quite excited about implementing this.
Yeah. So if you do certain activities in a certain order within that environment, then you can actually get an upper hand. But yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much because it'll just spoil it.
But it's not going to have any items like the Spectral, for example, being useful at Cerberus. We're not going to say anything like that for the Abyssal Sire.
In the case of the
know.
Spectral, we said it because people had been asking us for weeks whether we would please make the Spectral useful since they discovered it wasn't useful anywhere.
Yeah.
And we confirmed yes we would, and we confirmed where we would. But having done it, we don't need to do it again for the Abyssal one.
Okay.
Unless, of course, you've got anything in your bank that you're trying to sell, in which case you could pretend that it's going to be useful to get the price to go up.
Ah.
Yeah. Not that we would really do that.
So pink skirts.
Need pink skirts. I think the blind comment is quite a good one. So we need one of those hats with the 2 eye patches on them. That's clearly what's needed to kill this.
Well, we've just removed the darkness from a Krill Tutsaroth if you've got that Saradomin's light thing, so maybe it could have gone somewhere else.
Right.
Oh dear.
Let's go to the next question from the Gimo, who asks, when will we get to see our next big boss that will require an entire team to kill like Corp? So, immediately thinking the Abyssal Sire would be perfect for this because it's massive.
You've seen what the mechanics that I've suggested actually, and I do like the idea of more than one people going into this boss, just because because one of these boss rooms I can say is a map square and a half big. Is a really big boss room, so it would be nice to have multiple people in there and having lots of abyssal demons perhaps in there as well, so people can actually get their Slayer count up, and if they want to choose to sort of fight a Sire who's also in the room, then they have to engage with the full fight and actually take part in it. How that's going to be implemented would still be a bit up in the air. I'd probably have to turn to Ash as to the feasibility of that, and turn to Ronan and John and Ash for the viability of that for the community as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I was sold on the whole idea of being a solo boss right at the start, but there's plenty of room in there for lots of people to actually just really get involved.
Okay.
And it would create a contrast between the fact that we've just released a solo boss as well.
All right. Next question is from Strunit, who asks, can Halos receive a reduced prayer drain on certain prayers when worn? So this is something that was done at a certain time, isn't effective in Old School. Do they have an effect in Old School? It's certainly not as much as he's requesting.
There's nothing special programmed into the drain rate to modify that based on a Halo as opposed to any other item with a prayer bonus.
Yeah.
I don't really have much of an opinion on it, really. I mean, again, it's one of these things that we could do, but I don't think it's overly exciting and
it would really only act as something to drive people to Castle Wars. And I mean,
what would? Yeah, that's very much the thing. You know, if we want to drive people to Castle Wars, I'm sure there's much more interesting things we could do to drive people to Castle Wars.
it's a good idea as far as that goes, but do we need an item that can do that much? I think it reduces your prayer drain by like 33%, which is quite substantial. So, that's a big request.
I'm sure we could find a
We'll
way
leave
to
it
make
at
it work
that
if
then.
required to do so.
All right. Piratology asks, can we see a pirate boss with sailing? I'm shocked the guy named Piratology wants to see a pirate boss.
We've got a pirate boss, haven't we?
No.
Barrel chest?
I'm not sure what that thing is.
Yeah, so it's piratey type. There's a boss for a piratey thing, isn't
I
it?
think of this, bossing in Old School is supposed to be like the Abyssal Sire, a big scary monster. Pirate, I think of like a human. It's just like a guy wearing a
We
hat.
could have a giant pirate, couldn't we? I mean, we don't have to keep people, a pirate who is one of the ogres or something.
A sea monster's cooler. Let's go for a big old sea monster. That'd be great.
Leviathan or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of tentacles.
Okay.
I think, right. I think as well. We've had 3 bosses this year, or we will have had 3 bosses this year once the Sire's out. That's a lot of bosses now.
Yeah.
So probably not anytime soon, really, with the bosses. Probably summer next year when Zaya comes out. Possibly think of it then.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, we're talking
before then, no.
Significant wait. I mean, there are a lot of people who've been saying there's too much PVM so far. I mean, we've basically delivered what we sped at the last Dreamfest, and that's that done now. So
seems like
moving on to other things for the next 12 months, I think.
This year coming up is going to be a lot about skilling, really.
Yeah.
Doesn't it more than anything?
In the priority survey about a year and a half ago now, a year ago, Slayer did very well. A solo boss did very well.
Yeah.
We have given these things. Now we'll be very glad to give something else.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I think that's the way it's going to go. I mean, I was going to say something, I can't remember what. I suppose the sailing, it's not going to be boss heavy, is it? It's going to be sort of more encounters with monsters to fight, which is obviously going to have to be some combat in there.
Yeah. I guess it's more of an exploration, and
Yes. Oh, if there happens to be a great big pirate trundling around out there, then fine. I'm sure you'll run into one of those. But
do you remember? Okay. Do you remember? You'd have seen this. Time Bandits.
No.
The film. You haven't seen Time Bandits? Anybody's seen Time Bandits?
I've heard of it.
Time
Heard of
Bandits is a great film back from 1980 something probably, and in that they find this ogre who is on a ship, who looks after this ship and does fishing on it. So there's no reason why you can't have an ogre doing piracy on the high seas. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
I hesitate to cite that film as an example of why things can be had in RuneScape.
You've got to watch the film. If you haven't seen it, you've got to watch it. It's a brilliant film.
I love that this is turning into a story time.
Yeah. Sort of shortly after they managed, these little dwarf people managed to get rid of the pirates, the ogre, this massive giant picks up the boat, and he's 400 times bigger than the boat and walks off with it. On his head.
Spoilers.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched Time Bandits, watch it tonight. It is a fantastic film. It's one from my childhood, so that's how old it is. It's not quite black and white.
Well, you know how it ends.
Ends.
You know how it ends at least.
Yeah.
So
You don't?
Do you not say that?
No, I didn't say how it ends.
Oh, I thought that was the
It's all
end.
about good versus evil, and it's got what's his face in it? The James Bond guy, Sean Connery.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
always a good film with Sean Connery in it. So yeah, watch Time Bandits. It's brilliant.
Okay.
And that will show you what I mean.
Let's
Got a horse in a
do.
bedroom with a knight on it.
That's nice. What's your question?
One last big question here. I'm actually going to jump a question here. I think there's an image with this one, if we can get that up. So, Hey Jace asks, since the question to crush Zulrah items into scales failed the poll, can we revisit the idea of adding a high to mid-level hunter creature in the Zolander area that gives scales? Now, this idea has received a lot of support.
Yes, in fact, it got a fair bit of support last time it came up in the stream.
Yeah. However, the majority, if not all, of the replies to this idea, at least on Reddit, were saying, I don't think it should be with Hunter. Hunter already has a very profitable black chins. Perhaps with something like fishing. Sharks aren't doing too well. It would make sense to fish for sea snakes or whatever.
In that swamp.
Yeah, in that swamp. So,
Well, you could do net fishing to get the chests, and in there you can get silver scales maybe. Because Zulrah has to shed scales somewhere as well.
so you would be catching chests.
Yeah, so you'd actually be getting the scales rather than an animal itself.
But you'd be catching chests, though.
Yeah, so that's what you'd be after. I mean, you'd get a chance of chests that come out, and that's the only place that you open the chest and you could potentially get some scales in it.
Okay, so now I'm picturing so it's either you're fishing and you're only getting chests, because I would just think it's odd that you're fishing in this one spot and there just keeps happening to be a chest right there.
That would be odd, but it's you fish other fish that are in there as well.
Yeah.
But that's the
And
only
it's
place
mixed in
that a chest is
occasionally.
likely to contain silver scales.
You
That'd
know
be
there's that character down by the swamp in Zolandra. I think I called him Zulonan, and he's fishing for the sacred eels, or at least he thinks they're sacred eels that feed the tribe. Now, suppose those eels have been nibbling away at the base of Zora, and therefore have some Zora scales inside them, and that's why the tribe has got all weird from eating these things. But if you catch them and you cut them open with a knife instead, you get some Azora scales out that way. That could be a fishing update, which gives you Azora scales.
And some skilling stuff.
Yes, why not?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that about concludes the Q&A today. Yeah? Everyone happy with
I
that?
think so.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
I think they might have had enough of us.
Quite a bit of banter in this story time, or in this Q&A
It's
rather.
all my fault, I'm sorry.
But at least they
No,
know
it was
that they should
good
watch
fun
Time
actually.
Bandits.
So
It's because I haven't been on one for about 3 weeks, so.
we'll see. We'll gauge the feedback from this Q&A. Maybe next time, if people really want, we'll try to bang out as many 150 questions as possible. But yeah, aside from that, stream is over. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next Thursday.
Fear bots.
Bye.